Hi, my name is Reta with Yahoo Lifestyle. So here we are, we have great speakers and I'd like to introduce them briefly to you. So first up we have Jennifer Batty and she's the Chief Content Officer for HOOQ. And she leads the company's content acquisition, programming, viewership, engagement strategies, and she drives original productions across their diverse markets. Jennifer?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so I'm the Chief Content Officer at HOOQ. We are currently in 5 territories. We're in Singapore, Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, and I've missed a count. Oh, and in India. That's a big country to forget. We are an OTT service, and we offer the best of Hollywood content and the best of local content for you to watch wherever you are, whenever you want to, on any device. So I think we come into, we entertain you, and our Convergence bit is you can watch us anywhere.
And next up, we have Mr. Chua, who specializes in action, choreography, visual effects, and special effects. And he's trained by his mentor, Hollywood legend Michael Mann.
Hi, I'm JD. I work for Taiwan Films. We are a content production house. So currently we are in development for a few feature film, including one creature feature currently in post-production, Circle Line. So we are looking towards releasing maybe next year. So currently we are working on that. Yeah. No, it's next year. Sorry. Yeah. I hope it's this year also, but yeah, it's next year.
Thank you, JD. And our last speaker is Derek Tan. He's the co-founder and chief commercial officer of Viddsee, an online video platform for short premium content. On to you, Derek.
Yeah, maybe just a quick introduction. So I used to make films. I'm a computer engineer by training, but wanted to really build a community platform to bring filmmakers from all across Asia together and fundamentally bring together and curate exciting short form kind of like movies, short movies, short documentary series, and really kind of use that to share very local, authentic stories out to a global audience. So from there itself, as a platform, we drive kind of like marketing of these films out to an audience. And we started 2 years ago, started to actually work with filmmakers like JD here to actually produce new original content as well. Also, just little things that we're doing right now.
Sounds really good. So let's start with the question. Today's theme is Asia the next entertainment hub? So do you think we are equipped to make big blockbusters? Open to the floor.
Okay, I'm going to ask the producer director to answer that, and then I'm going to give the, because we provide the content to people, sort of our view on it also. But I think it's really interesting, your thoughts.
Okay, is Asia ready to make big blockbuster? I would say yes and no. The reason why I say yes, we have foreign projects coming into Singapore. Take for instance, 3 years ago, there's a Fox movie, Hitman Agent 47. So that was one of the first time where big genre movies like action done here in Singapore. And the best part is Singapore filmmakers get to work with them and get trained on how to work on visual effects, stunts, and that in turn can educate our local workforce to be trained on making movies like that. I would say no because we are not ready yet. So we are in a very infant stage on making movies like that. So I think my views on that will change in the near future because I'm starting to see filmmakers using skill set beyond what they are comfortable with. And I hope my movie, Circle Lines, is going to be one of the playmakers for that. Yeah. Again, released next year.
So the reason I think it's really interesting when people ask that question, because I think that as a content provider, we have a different outlook. And I think that film producers in Asia are very modest. And I think, from a HOOQ perspective, our HOOQ ourselves, we're looking to do about 100 originals this year across our 5 territories. And some of the filmmakers that we're working with are absolutely incredible. And I think that the talent, people here are a little bit more modest and feel that for years it's always been that if you're going to make it, you've got to make it in the States. but if you actually look at the number of eyeballs that are showing up and are coming to theaters across Asia, here in Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, you know, you've got some very large populations, and what people are able to produce and do now is a lot stronger than what it was, say, 5 or 6 years ago. And I think that there's an incredible potential here in Asia, and I've seen that in the last 2 years how it's really sort of doubled and grown. And the stories, and people here are becoming much more creative, and they're really digging into storylines and story arcs and the characters and character development. And you know, whether it's a series or a film, there's some really strong stuff that's coming out. We've seen some great stuff in Indonesia, and we've got some projects here in Singapore also. So I think you guys are doing a fabulous job.
Derek?
Yeah, maybe to jump in here from a pretty macro level, I think it's pretty interesting to look at where consumer growth is happening out here in Asia itself. And I think when you look at the entertainment business, it is a business after all, that's being powered by consumers. We're at a space right now where internet penetration, I think, Merrymaker's internet report that just came out, I think, earlier this month, was sharing that we're at more than 50% global penetration of internet, and Asia is at 48%, and there's so much more opportunity for us to grow. Last year, I think Temasek Google did a report where Southeast Asian audience was spending twice as more time on mobile internet as compared to audience in the US, in the West. So I think that consumer behavior is fueling a lot of consumption, and in that report it was also talking a lot about local content creators, powering kind of like that and fueling that growth itself. So I think there's that opportunity when we looked at a consumer point of view coming in and actually fueling the business. Another trend that's happening right now is a lot of the content companies are looking east, right? They're looking at east. You got big guys like your Netflix, your Disney Plus, coming in and no, I'll get to you guys. And there's a lot of investment, right? The percentage investment in Asia, is significant. It's growing. And then we've got players like ourselves where we're investing a lot. 100 original content, out here in the region. Ourselves also doing Viddsee originals across the region. It becomes interesting that we're putting a lot of effort into helping local content creators kind of like grow their stories. And I think it becomes a very interesting convergence here, right? Where a local storyteller now can get his story, a very local, authentic story, to a global audience. And I think that's powered a lot by the accessibility that internet penetration is giving right now. So I think with that, it does give us the opportunity. But like what JD was saying, I think we're still in the early stage. But I think we have that infrastructure, we have that hunger to kind of go there. But I think it will take some time for us to kind of build that infrastructure out. And I think Singapore is in an interesting position where we actually have those infrastructure. And it's how do we kind of facilitate and work with storytellers across the region to facilitate that and use our infrastructure to kind of help some of these local content creators to kind of build up and then becoming that hub, I think, for entertainment. I think that's an interesting play for us. Yeah.
And just to, I think, because I agree very much with both what Derek and JD have said, and I think one of the things that HOOQ also, that we do is we have what's called the HOOQ Filmmakers Guilds, and it is very much about brand new filmmakers. You might have worked in the industry, or you might know somebody, but you've got this idea and you want to turn it into a series. And so this is this is what we're trying to do, is help nurture the talent. And we do master classes with them, and so you enter the HOOQ Filmmakers Guild. Every year we have more entries. We shortlist down to 10. We work very closely with those 10 with their stories to turn it into a pilot script. Then from those 10, it goes down to 5 that we produce a pilot, and then we select one that has a full series that's produced and goes up on HOOQ. And so I think there's more and more people that are looking into getting into the industry. I think people are much more excited about it in Asia now. And from HOOQ's perspective, when you look at our viewing minutes, and we know what people are watching every day, every minute, how they're watching it. Are they watching it on their phone, their iPad, smart TV, via set-top box? We know all of this information, and we know exactly what you're watching. And local content, whether it is Indonesian or Thai or Filipino, is excelling. And when HOOQ first launched 4 or 5 years ago, the viewing figures was very much dominated by Hollywood content. Now it's dominated by local content. So people want to watch what they're familiar, what they want to watch their neighbors or what could happen to them on television rather than being brought in the US content. And it's exciting to see the growth and the acceleration of the local content viewing minutes.
I want to add to that. Like, I think besides having more platforms like HOOQ or Viddsee, which is very encouraging, it also depends on the industry to have available resources for producers to come in. So the IMDA have the co-production film fund, and then we have the production assist. It actually help us a lot to be encouraged to pitch projects, to make more projects and make Asia for more vibrant media region.
Thanks, Jay. So we'll hold you to that point about funds. We'll get back to you later. I think Derek wants to make an extra point about consumer behavior and content.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is also local content to an international audience. I think as a platform, because we bring Asian content to a global audience, and we've seen, you know, very small, you know, very local kind of stories that's made out here, you know, in Jogja or, you know, in Singapore. We've seen those films travel, right? Travel across the region and globally, and we see, you know, news outlets in the US pick up some of these stories, etc. So I feel like there is, yes, it's you know, a very simple Singapore story, but I think it itself, from the maturity of, you know, storytelling with, you know, thinking about universal themes and topics, right? We start seeing these films travel as well and finding audience worldwide. You know, all the way up to, I guess, you know, feature films like your Ilo Ilos, your A Land Imagine, you know, winning at big festivals like Locarno, etc. So you start seeing kind of like international recognition for, I won't say small films. I think they're very uniquely, I guess, nuanced stories that's coming out from our, you know, our space out here, and I think that's promising. Yeah.
Good to hear. So, touching back on what you said earlier, you know, we've got all these big players like Netflix, Disney Plus coming, and Viddsee and HOOQ are very localized, very central. Do you think there'll be a saturation point for consumers, like, you know, our audience here, as to how many services they will subscribe, and how are you going to entice, you know, the audience to stay on your platform with all this content that you're having? How you differentiate yourself, basically?
Yeah, I think that's a question that we talk about in the office almost every day, because it is, you know, how much disposable income do people have for these services? But I think you also you look at pay TV channels and the money that consumers pay to subscribe to, you know, here in Singapore, whether it's Singtel or StarHub. In other territories, there's, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 pay TV operators in that, and you can have anywhere from 20 channels to 100 channels or 200 channels. So I think that you'll see that as the industry is evolving or converging, that you'll see that the way people, we already see the way people consume content is changing. So pay TV channels are thinning out. You don't have as many as you did, say, 5 years ago, and more people are coming to OTT operators. So I think that from a HOOQ's perspective, the way that we see ourselves relevant in 5 years or 10 years ago with other players coming into the market is our original content. It is our local content. It's what we are commissioning and producing ourselves. It's working with filmmakers, local filmmakers in all of our territories, and having these really strong platforms for their films to be seen with the subscribers that we have. And when you look at the cost, I think you look at, and I'll use Indonesia as an example because it's Singapore is a little bit of a different, more mature market. But in Indonesia, you have 260 million people, and the average salary is less than $400 a month, US dollars a month. So you have somebody like Netflix that comes in, and they're going for that top echelon. They're going for the 1-2%. And when you have 280 million people, that's a lot of people. For HOOQ, we are very much about being a local service for the locals. You can subscribe to HOOQ for a year, and those are my favorites. You can subscribe for 3 months. You can subscribe for a month. You can subscribe for a week, or you can subscribe for 24 hours. So we want to make sure that we have price points that everybody, it's accessible for everybody in the country. And what we've also launched is a very strong freemium layer in all of our territories. So if you don't happen to have a disposable income that week to subscribe to a content provider, we still have some incredibly strong local content that you can watch for free.
For free?
For free.
Wow.
And it is, so in Indonesia right now, we have probably about 400 or 500 hours worth of local Indonesian films. We have local MCNs, we have international MCNs, we have free-to-air linear channels, we have vloggers that we'll be introducing, we have short-form content, and that you can come in and watch. There's no charge, and it's all local, it's free. And then when you do have a little bit of extra income and you want to see the latest movies that are from the theater or additional series that aren't in the freemium area, you pay. And it's, you know, for 24 hours, it's 25 cents. So we want to make sure that we have those points. And the other bigger services have a 1 month subscription, so you need to have more money.
Do you find difficulty in switching the free subscribers to paid? Marketing.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. It is a work in progress, but we do see that from the freemium layer when we launched it, we have a really interesting conversion to 1-day subscription and a really interesting conversion to weekly. So we see that the people that are coming in and consuming the freemium content are the ones that are coming, when they come back and they have money, they subscribe for a week or a day. They're not coming in and subscribing for a month, but they'll come in and subscribe 3 or 4 times in that month for a single day. So they do come back, and you do see when they have the income that they can afford to do that.
So it's offering a different type of monetization structure to entice a different
very much
income
so.
market.
And also just to sort of tie into the convergence sort of theory, is it's also about how they can pay for us. So with a number of OTT players that are out there, you can only pay via your credit cards. In Singapore, that's okay, because everybody has a credit card. In Indonesia, they don't. So we've partnered with lots of different pay wallets. So OVO, which is the #1 pay wallet in Indonesia. People pay for their electricity bills, their gas, their phone, everything like that through OVO. You can also pay for HOOQ. We've partnered here in Singapore and also in Indonesia with Grab. So you're going to book your Grab taxi, and you can click on a video button that takes you directly to HOOQ, and you can pay for your HOOQ. You can watch the free content there, or you can pay for your HOOQ subscription through Grab Pay or however you're connected with Grab. So it is giving different price points and a lot of different ways for people to actually be able to give us money, which we like.
Okay, I hope to be a free member soon and try out some of your
HOOQ.tv, HOOQ.tv. No more shameless plugs.
All right, and you touch on partners, and we know having a good partner is essential, and there is so much to creating original content. You know, some of the content creators need to work with brands in order to, you know, get some revenue before their art project hits off. So, JD, what do you think about this? Do brands give you freedom to create content, the space for it?
Is there any brand owners here? No, okay. Okay, so I believe when clients or brand owners go to agencies or production house, it really stems on the kind of relationship that they have. So it's very much like a parent giving a child the car to drive, right? So it's built on trust, it's built on how well you know your partners are. So I have been on meetings where clients are very protective over their content. So they hold their IP like on a stranglehold. So as producers, anything we do, every single move we make, we need to report to them. I have been on to one where we have an established relationship. So they just come to us and say, hey, we want this content to be produced, and they trust us to express ourselves within their circumstance. As long as we have their interests in their heart, they would give us freedom, no problem. Yeah. So I think it's a very big question. This one, it really depends on the kind of relationship we have with the clients. Yeah.
So maybe to kind of add in here, it's pretty interesting because going back to kind of like looking at the entertainment hub, and this is one of the stakeholders that we look at, which is also brands within the platform, and how do we kind of empower filmmakers, storytellers, kind of chart out more stories, right? Is that within the online space, I think it's getting more and more interesting with storytelling as well. So advertisers are using today is your pre-rolls. You're putting out 6 seconds, you're getting it in front of consumers. But all the consumer want to do is to click on that skip button. It's great from buying of a share of mine kind of standpoint. So you just spend money and you get kind of your ad out and your awareness out. But I think more and more today from online consumption habit is also to entertain, to be entertained. And I think that's where, like, when we first started off with short films, we created short films for a festival route. But I always see short films as a very interesting platform for movies, for the internet in a way. And I think in China, you've got your whole micro cinema, which is Wei Tianying. You see web series, you see short movies, and they're kind of like backed up by brands as well also. But it's a very interesting way where you use content, you use stories to engage with the audience, to deliver messaging. One good example is Marriott. Marriott Hotel actually did this a short movie called Two Bellmen, and they did the first one. I think I can't remember the numbers, but they hit millions in a few weeks. But then they continued on to do the second one, and they got millions in just a couple of days. And then they went on to premiere one in Korea, I think with Asian stars, the third one. I think take that back home to Singapore. One of the clients that we work with, DBS, they've launched this web series called Sparks. And Sparks is about a bunch of bankers actually going about managing and handling their clients. But it's done in a very entertaining way. And I have audience on our platform wanting to watch the next episode of Sparks, before it comes out, and we're like, but it's an advertisement, it's by DBS. But we have audience coming in wanting to be entertained. So I think it's interesting to look at brands as one stakeholder as well, to kind of fuel the ability of driving entertainment within the online space. And I think there are opportunities to kind of merge that with the entertainment space as well in the future. And I think we can be in a position from an Asia standpoint where everything is converging and changing so much in the ecosystem, that it gives us that opportunity to be that hub. Occupy kind of like that space with all the different stakeholders to kind of grow that. So yeah.
And I think from HOOQ's point of view with our original productions, we're always looking at co-production partners. We're looking at product placement. We're looking to work with brands and how we integrate within the story. But what we try and what we want to continue to do, and we've been very lucky so far that the clients that we've worked with have really trusted us and is exactly as JD has said, depending on your relationship. And we've been able to integrate very well within our films and series, so it doesn't feel like an advertisement. You don't feel like somebody is like, oh, I'm just going to check the time on my watch, and then they say the brand 5 times. We don't want to do that. What we've been doing and what our team and our original productions team work with is, if it's a watch, they look at it and it makes sense because they're looking to see what time it is because they're doing something. It's not because we don't want that. And I think it's, we have a head of originals who's worked in the industry for many years, and he's got very strong relationships, and it does come back to the relationships and the trust that the brands have with the filmmakers. I don't think there's anybody out there that's making film that isn't looking for additional money and funds from brands.
I want to add this, remember we did one web series. I think when Viddsee wanted to do a thriller web series and I pitched for it, I was crazy enough to say, let's shoot this on an iPhone. And of course Viddsee, there was another producer, his name is Kenny, first did a reality check on me, like, are you mad? So
the whole thing was only on an iPhone.
We shot a whole entire web series on iPhone.
Wow, okay.
So I had to do a whole song and dance to the executive producer, who eventually got convinced to say, okay, if you are this crazy, let's be crazy together. And we band together to speak to Apple for support. And this is where you want to you have to share your side of the story. So he managed to convince.
Yeah, so we got Apple to come in as sponsors. We've I think got 6 iPhones on set, right,
6,
to shoot
yes.
because
6 iPhone, 3 iPads.
they needed to be iPads were used as kind of like your monitors. The pencil was being done to do your focus. We needed a lot of iPhones because we need to switch them around for some reason. We won't share why. It was an experience. But I think what was interesting is then the journey that we took on with Apple to actually premiere it at the Apple Store as well also. So I think kind of like just integrating, how brand stories kind of come in. I think it becomes an opportunity for us to find those synergies with brands.
So this goes back to the relationship that the filmmaker have with the client. So I'm very blessed to have Viddsee as an ally. Yeah.
Very cool. So when it comes to the brand awareness for your platform, what are some of the ways that you are marketing to consumers to differentiate yourself from the other big players out there?
I think so from a HOOQ perspective, it comes back to our content. It is very much about what is the content, what do we have to showcase. We really focus and feature our HOOQ originals. For example, we have a Filipino film which has just been released here on HOOQ called Ulan, which stars Nadine, I'll not get her name correct, Luster, but it's a HOOQ original film. It's exclusive. You will not find it anywhere else here in Singapore except for on HOOQ.
It's about exclusivity to the platform.
It's exclusivity. It's our originals. It's you're not gonna we'll market them. We work very closely with across social media. We work very closely with influencers. We look at, from a marketing, we're not a traditional linear channel, so we don't promote the same way a linear channel does. So it is very much about social media and how we use digital, because we are a digital platform. But it's the exclusivity and having content that is only on HOOQ and highlighting those key things and highlighting the characters, the stars, the stories.
On our end, because our platform is 2 communities, filmmakers, audience. So with the filmmaker crowd, I think we're doing a lot of craft and credibility. I think working on interviews, spotlight. You go to a film screening, you raise our hand, ask questions. I think we try and mirror that with AMAs, Ask Me Anything. So I think a lot of focus on craft and credibility with the filmmakers. The other side of the stories, I think a lot of what we do is carry the conversation, carry the topics. So to be honest, I think what we've done a lot is we've let the films kind of travel. I have this story of a Korean short film that talked about plastic surgery. So very huge conversation around the perception of beauty, especially in South Korea. And what had happened was we used that angle to kind of push the films. The film started to pop out in Taiwan, where news work actually used it in one of their news program and started sharing about the film because it started to get picked up quite a bit. And I think from there it started spreading again. The conversation spread, and then it went to China. And then we started seeing kind of like WeChat things, links being shared across social platforms as well. So I think for us is going back to topics, going back to conversations. It is what our logo is as well. Also for the Viddsee logo, it is a conversation box with a screen inside.
Bubble, right?
Yeah, bubble. Yeah. So I think that's kind of like the mindset that we have that to me, filmmakers, or as a filmmaker, right, we're storytellers of our community. And each one of us scales the kind of stories that we want to tell to the world. So we kind of, so we want to use that methodology to get, the stories out. Yeah.
So Jennifer, you touched upon, statistics where people are tuning out on cable TV. So this is a question to content creators. Should content creators care about putting their showreels online, or should they still continue pitching to cable TV? Any discussion on it?
I think that right now, from an OTT perspective, we are inundated with people coming and pitch to us, which is fabulous, and it's exciting, and we love it, and it's what we want. I think that in Asia, when you're producing for a linear channel, you have a little bit more restrictions than you do for an OTT player. So within, for example, you have censorship that you have to follow. You have a certain number of minutes that you need to be. You need to be, if you're going to be an hour, you need to be 42, 43 minutes for a broadcast hour. When you're pitching to an OTT platform like HOOQ, if your story dictates that it should be 48 minutes or 52 minutes or 64 minutes, great, then that's what we'll take. It is very much about the story dictating what it should be, not the broadcast hour or the broadcaster. And we are willing to push the boundaries. We're the internet. We don't have the same censorship regulations that other players do. We are very conscious of the countries that we're in, and we're very respectful of the countries, their beliefs, their religions, what is taboo and what is not taboo. For example, here in Singapore, we have a mature audience pin. So you just have to, you've got 4 numbers that you put in, and if parents want to pass the pins on to their children and they can watch anything, that's up to them. But yeah, so we are very, I think that if I was a filmmaker, because I would be pitching to the OTT players, because I think you have more flexibility, more creativity, more opportunities. We don't have a 24-hour schedule to fill. We're just looking at the best content to put, so we may, most of us will produce more than any of the linear channels in Asia. So I think that there's more opportunities, there's less restrictions, there's more creative opportunities for them with OTT. And yes, please pitch to HOOQ.
Filmmakers, please pitch to HOOQ. So my next question points back to JD. You talk about, how filmmakers need help, grants, funds. Do you think Singapore itself, is our government doing enough for that?
Wow. Okay, so I believe it is not. I believe it's not just money. It also boils down to a filmmaker to go out of his or her comfort zone to learn. I am speaking from personal experience. Like I always wanted to make action film, but Singapore is not the place for it. So I knew that when I graduated. So I went to the US and I knocked on the door to say, hey, you are making an action film, let me be a PA on your set. So I actually went through the grind to understand how foreigners work, and then from then on use my experience back here in Singapore. So yes, the government is providing a lot of support, but it also boils down to filmmakers knowing that such support exists. So yeah, so it's a bit of a two-way relationship.
To add on a bit here, I think there's a lot more that we need to do. I think to support the industry as a whole, it's not just, on one hand you've got the support to the films, the filmmakers, the talent. We bring in experts coming in. I think this Saturday there's the Torino lab session. I thought that's going to be cool. So you bring experts in to share case studies and all that. But at the same time, for me, it's also audience development, right? To build up, I think to build up the industry, you need that sustainability as well also. And I think the audience play a big part. I think we're at a stage today that I can safely say most of us, are like, hey, local film playing, like, I don't watch, I want to watch like, another film. So I think that mentality still needs to, be shaped and built up even more. I think that still needs to be a lot of work to kind of like figure out how we can actually come together to strengthen that. I think other markets like Korea and all that, they did amazing work in trying to build that, or even in France, right? Build that. You tax the foreign films and you give the money back to the local productions and stuff, right? We don't have those structures in place yet, to kind of build up also the ecosystem for audience. So I think, yes, we're working on quite a bit of things, but at the same time, I still feel like there's a lot more, and it's a complicated thing to do as well. So with audience development, talent development, infrastructure to kind of bring funding, and the Southeast Asia production grant. I think that's really interesting because you're going to tap on interesting stories that's coming out from the region. And I remember judging for a regional film festival before, and sad to say, like the stories coming out from Singapore wasn't I don't the you get the rawness, you get the beauty sometimes of a little film in in Indonesia, right? And you hear about who this filmmaker is. He's the son of a farmer, and the things that he's seeing within his environment, the stories that he's telling is amazing. But then, how do we give him the support and the structure? And I think the Southeast Asia Production Grant is interesting in allowing that to happen, but then tapping on producers out here in Singapore to actually facilitate that. I think those are steps for us, you know, to get kind of like, you know, this project's kind of like going as well. So yeah, so we are doing stuff, but I think there's a lot more, but it's a bit complicated also to kind of develop the infrastructure, the ecosystem.
I see, I see. So as a roundup, I'd like to ask, you know, what is Asia doing currently to be on the right track to be an entertainment hub? Do you think there's less red tapes? There are more interesting storytelling from content creators?
I think Asia's I mean, and I think I mentioned this to you when we were talking. A couple of years ago, I was on a panel in Hong Kong for Hong Kong Film Mart, and they kept talking about to be successful, you had to be successful in the US. But, and I was the controversial panelist who then said, well, wait a second. Why are you, and it was two Americans, I'm Canadian, but I was two Americans, and they both worked in China. And I said, okay, so to be successful, you need to be making it in the US, but why are you both working in China? And the feedback was, oh, actually, you know what, you're right. It's not about, it is about being, to be successful now, it's not about being successful in the United States, it's about being successful around the world. And Asia is definitely the up and coming area. I mean, there's some incredible content that is coming out of Indonesia, that's coming out of Korea, that's starting to come out of it, well, it's been coming out of China for a while. There is some absolutely incredible content, and I think that people sell things short a little bit here in Asia, and I think that it is, you know, when you've got countries, you look at India and how many people live there, and their content is incredible. So I think that Asia's on the right track, and will continue to grow and be on that track.
Agree with that. Yeah, I think again, you know, I kicked off talking about the trend is coming east as well. So yeah, you see the opportunities here, you see people coming in, and we are here, right? And I love being here also in the heart of Southeast Asia. It's complicated. We've got a lot of users, right? You know, market that's way bigger than the US, but at the same time so fragmented. But I think within that fragmentation, there's rich stories that can come out. I remember, you know, at a film festival, you know, I'm a Chinese from Singapore. I was meeting a Chinese from Philippines, a Chinese who grew up in Malaysia, a Chinese who was growing up in Indonesia, and we're there. And we're sharing our own stories, so similar but so different. And I think there's richness in that to explore. There is universality of themes and topics that, you know, we can relate to, but at the same time, so different. And yeah, I think that's exciting. But yeah.
I do think that we need to work together. When I say that, I meant like cross-cultural, cross-countries and all that, because we have available resources beyond our shore if we know where to look. So in Thailand, excellent stunt team, excellent visual effects, special effects and all that. There are other departments, like Vietnam is coming up with visual effects. Like nobody is looking at that direction yet. So imagine if somebody have the shared contact or resources to band all these people together and to make more projects using these available resources. Easily, Asia can be the next entertainment hub.
I think I just got an idea, an open platform where people can share ideas for filmmaking and content creation. We can open up to all the startups out there who wants to create this idea from me. So we've got 1 minute left on the clock. We could accept some questions from the floor if anyone asks, or if any of the speakers have any questions for each other.
Yeah, that startup is us. Funds. We're looking for fun.
Funds, okay, yes.
We're looking for content.
Okay, so Viddsee is looking for funds, any VCs, and content creators, please look for HOOQ. So
email Brian at HOOQ.com.
It's name dropping. So to end our session, we need really unique storytelling, we need brave storytellers, interesting content creators, and open OTT platforms like yourself who are willing to take the risk, to be brave, to onboard all this content for audience who are looking for interesting stories. So yes, big round of applause to our speakers. Thank you so much for the sharing and for the tips.
Thank you very much, guys.